Hello, friends from Five Reasons. Welcome to another video, another piece of content that we're going to be having here on our Five Reasons YouTube channel. My name is Alejandro Villegas. You know me as one of the main producers here on our YouTube channel. And today we're going to be talking about the in-season tournament that the NBA just announced a couple of days ago. I know all of you are looking for more and more content on Dame Lillard and what's going to happen with this star that's probably coming to the Miami Heat. We've had enough, or I think we have enough of that content. We just published one of the latest episodes, or the latest episode of Five on the Floor, talking about the Lillard case and how would the Miami Heat make the most out of his presence here with the team. But for now, let's talk about the NBA in-season tournament, because this is going to be something interesting. And I think some of you might be wondering, how does it work and why is the NBA doing this? I have experience covering soccer tournaments, not only at a club level, but also at a team level. And I think this is going to be really interesting because it has a lot of those things that we see in soccer tournaments that could be interesting for the NBA as a league that it's really innovating lately, and it's creating always, or trying to create more meaningful games throughout the year. And that's what I think is the main idea with this situation right now. So let's start talking about the in-season tournament. This is going to be working. Here you have, this is the logo. It's going to be called the NBA Cup. As you may know already by this point, they're going to separate the third teams in 6 groups, 6 teams on each one of those groups. There are going to be 3 in each conference, so it's not a random. It was not a random draw. It was selected on each one of the NBA conferences. So the Western Conference is going to play on their side. The Eastern Conference is going to play on their side as well, and that's one of the keys of this tournament. Is different in this sense of what we see on European soccer tournaments, for example, when they just do a regular draw. And the only thing is that you cannot just not play with teams of the same country for the first 2 rounds of the tournament. In this case, it's just separate conferences. It's kind of like 2 different tournaments, and they just meet in the finals, just like they do in the regular season in the NBA. So let's start with those details, because that's interesting. Not only how this is going to happen, the dates, you guys probably already know, but it's from November 3rd. This is going to start in the middle of the season, and the Final Four, which is going to take place in Las Vegas, in that beautiful dome that you guys have seen in Summer League games. The Final Four is going to be from December 7th to December 9th. The games are going to be played on Tuesdays and Fridays, all Tuesdays and Fridays, but the Tuesday in which the presidential election of the United States is going to take place next year. Remember? Well, not next year, this year. Or next year, when it takes place next year, that Tuesday, of course, is not going to be NBA games are not going to be played that day. So Final Four in Las Vegas, 6 groups of 5 teams each. This is interesting because it's just 4 games, 2 home, 2 away. That's going to be the group stage. The first round is going to be a very short first round, so there's not going to be a lot of time for you to lose a game and then try to come back. You have only 4 games against those teams, and that's going to be really interesting. The first team on each one of those 6 groups is going to advance, and then you're going to have 2 wild cards depending on the record and different things to define who the other 2 teams are going to be playing there in that second round, which is going to be knockout stages, quarterfinals, semifinals, and final. And that's going to be really interesting, in my opinion. The 22 teams that do not advance to the second round will be playing regular season games, at least 2 regular season games, while the knockout games are taking place. So this is not going to stop entirely the entire NBA. If your team does not advance to the next stage, that doesn't mean that your team just stops playing for 2 or 3 weeks. No, they're going to have games, regular season games as well. So let's add here, because we have the draw that the NBA did. This is all set up already. And like I said, it's different from European tournaments in the sense of the you have you already know which teams are going to participate, and it's different in the same thing. I mean, when you refer to it, it's different also because it's not only the top teams that are going to be playing in this tournament like it happens in the Champions League, for example. It's every team in the league is going to be part of what's going on, and this is a draw that the NBA did. As you can see, for all of you that are here, probably Miami Heat fans, we are going to be in the East B group or pool, along with the Milwaukee Bucks, the New York Knicks, the Washington Wizards, and the Charlotte Hornets. In the East A, you're going to have the Philadelphia 76ers, the Cleveland Cavaliers, the Atlanta Hawks, the Indiana Pacers, and the Detroit Pistons. In the East C, you're going to have Boston Celtics, the Brooklyn Nets, the Toronto Raptors, the Chicago Bulls, and the Orlando Magic. When you go to the West, in the West A, Memphis Grizzlies, Phoenix Suns, Los Angeles Lakers, Utah Jazz, and Portland Trail Blazers. From our friends who we're trying to take Dame Lillard from. In the West B, you have the Denver Nuggets, the regular season champions last year, the LA Clippers, the New Orleans Pelicans, the Dallas Mavericks, the Houston Rockets, and the West C is going to have the Sacramento Kings, the Golden State Warriors, the Minnesota Timberwolves, the Oklahoma City Thunder, and the San Antonio Spurs with Wemby, who's making his debut in this summer league, and you guys are enjoying it. So those are the teams that are going to be in those pools. The Miami Heat will play one game against the Knicks, one game against the Bucks, one game against the Charlotte Hornets, and one game against the Washington Wizards. If they advance, then they will be playing, and depending on the seeding, that's going to depend on who they're going to be playing next in the quarterfinals or the second round of this in-season tournament. It's really interesting to me. It's they're trying to do, and I was talking to one of my friends about this. The NBA is trying to make the most out of the huge amount of games that these teams play. If you go through it, it's 82 games in a regular season, and if you have to advance to the next stages in the playoffs, it could be from 4 to 7 on each one of those stages. So some teams end up playing more than 100 games, and not all of them, especially if only those teams who go to the finals are going to play that amount of games. But if you don't advance to the playoffs and you're a bottom team, bottom of the league team, then you're playing so many games that are just not meaningful. And to me, this is going to change a little bit of that. Let's listen or read what some of the people in the league said about this. Adam Silver, the NBA commissioner, said, "This is a concept that has been rumbling around the league office for around 15 years. He said in the NBA Today and NBA Con, as part of the league's annual gathering in Las Vegas. He said, "We thought, what a perfect opportunity for a global league like the NBA, and it's a perfect fit for our games. New traditions take time, but all throughout sports, we're seeing new innovations, and now's the time for this NBA in-season tournament." I think it's interesting that this is going on right now. Then Ivan Wash, also an NBA executive vice president of basketball strategy, says, "The commitment we made to teams is that we would do everything in our power to avoid the group play games being the second night of a back-to-back. It will likely be impossible to avoid some of them being the first night of back-to-backs. It is probably infeasible for us to deliver a schedule where they're not the first or second night of any back-to-back. So the commitment we hope to achieve at this point is to avoid second night of back-to-backs." Talking a little bit about what's gonna happen. Another interesting point: players will take home $500 for being on the team that wins the NBA Cup, and the runner-up players are gonna be taking $200 each. That's not a lot of money for some of these NBA players. For some of them, it is, especially young guys, and especially young guys on teams that maybe are not thinking they're gonna make the playoffs, and they're not thinking they can make a run in the regular season NBA tournament. This tournament can give them an opportunity to play meaningful games all over or not all over, but like play meaningful games in this stage of the season, and in this stage of the team and this stage of their careers, while if they don't, maybe they never get to play this type of important games at any point of their lives. And we'll see how it happens, how it works. We'll see if the same teams end up playing in the NBA finals or in this NBA Cup finals anyway. And that happens a lot of in European soccer, which is the main reference that we have for this type of tournaments. I mean, most of the time, the best teams in each one of the best leagues end up playing the finals or winning this type of tournament anyway. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with the NBA, but I think it's a really interesting idea and a really interesting bet that the NBA is doing right now to try to make this in-season tournament uh, something different and something that some fans um, that have teams that are really not going to win the NBA regardless of what they do in the regular season. Why not have this tournament to really have an opportunity to win a title, some sort of title? And I know it's weird for the NBA, and this doesn't really happen very often in the big leagues in the United States. It's happening right now in the WNBA with the Commissioner's Cup, but it's not a regular thing that we see in MLB, NHL, or NFL. But I think the NBA has been the best league in this regard, doing things differently. They added the playing tournament, which at the beginning was like, "What are you guys doing? You're letting teams that are under 500 to have an opportunity to make the playoffs." And at the end of the day, you saw what happened with the Miami Heat. Even though they finished seventh, they had to play the playing tournament. They were almost out of the playing tournament and out of the playoffs, and they ended up playing the NBA Finals against the Denver Nuggets. So I don't know. I think it's interesting that the NBA is really innovating all the time and is really trying things differently, and they're going right away, right at it. And if it doesn't work, they can bring it back. Just play the regular season as it is, and just uh, have fun with it. What I don't want to see in this playing tournament, and this is something that could happen, and it happens in soccer sometimes, is that in when you're having such a long tournament that in Europe it's called leagues. You play leagues and they play more than 30 games, 34 to 38, depending on which countries, or 30 to 38, depending on the amount of teams and the different types of countries that they are there. Sometimes you have to pick, and because it's the same roster that is playing both tournaments, and sometimes you play Sunday games in the league, you play Wednesday for the cup, whatever it is, and then you play again on Sunday for the league again. And some players and some teams think, you know what, this tournament it's more important than the other one, so we're not gonna risk it just to play this tournament here and then maybe lose a player for the rest of the season. So that's one of the challenges that the NBA has, that this does not become just a time of the year when they can rest their best players, when they can just, you know what, give minutes to those players that are not getting a lot of regular season minutes anyway. So why not play them here and have fun? And if we win, we won it. And if we didn't, well, too bad. And that's it. That's what I don't want to see in this tournament. And the NBA has an opportunity. They're trying to make people be or not people, but players be interested in this tournament just by offering them offering money. I don't know if that's gonna be something that is really that important. I think if you add something like maybe a playoff seating somewhere, if you win the tournament or something in that capacity, can be something interesting. Even though there are teams that, like I said, maybe are not going to be even close to be playing in the tournament or in the regular season normal NBA playoffs. So we'll see what happens. I think it's interesting. It's a new idea. It's a way of trying to play more and more important games, which is something that the NBA has been struggling with. It happens a lot with MLB, too many games that are just meaningless and that are not as exciting because there's nothing on the line in that particular game. And I think the NBA is trying to avoid this with this idea. We have a comment here from our friend Joe Rock. He says, how will it work? Will the season games still be going on simultaneously? Like I said, in the regular stage, the group stage, all the teams are going to be playing at the same time. So no normal regular season games at that particular point. But then once the 8 best teams advance to the next round, the other um, 22 teams are going to be playing regular season games. So according to the NBA, it's going to be 2 regular season games, while the quarterfinals, semifinals, and finals are going on in this NBA Cup or in-season tournament. Well, each one of the 22 teams remaining that are not involved in this stage of that cup, they're going to be playing their games, their regular season games, with their schedule as usual. So we'll see how this works, because sometimes, what if you can have a game, or you have a game on the schedule, but the team that you're playing with, it's actually playing in the quarterfinals or the semifinals. Those are details that we're gonna have to figure out as we go. But I think it's really interesting. And thank you, Joe Rock, for your question, because there's a lot of questions. I know there's still a lot of people trying to figure out what to think about this new idea the NBA is having. I think it's interesting, and I think it's gonna be it's going to take maybe years and maybe a generation, an entire generation, to give this cup a real or an importance and a relevance during the season, because it's such a short game. If you count the 4 games in the regular stage plus quarterfinals, semifinals, and finals, it's winning a cup just playing 7 games, similar to what happens in tournaments like the FIFA World Cup, for example. You play 3 games in the group stage, and then you play the second round, the quarterfinals, semifinals, and finals. So you only need to win, and you don't really need to win all 7 games. You can maybe draw and lose one of the games, or even tie in soccer, and advance in penalty kicks, and it's a different type of game. But just the amount of games that you need to win in this tournament is so much less than the ones that you have to win an actual NBA title. That title is also it's not also, but always gonna have more importance, because of what it takes to really go through all the regular season and then play the playoffs, the NBA playoffs, which are very long and exhausting. And we've witnessed it with the Miami Heat, how hard it's been in the last couple of years, even though they've been to the finals, to the Eastern Conference Finals, and they've been constantly playing the playoffs. We'll see what happens with this tournament, and we'll see if hopefully the Miami Heat can win the first edition that's going to be taking place this year. Have a good day. Thank you for joining us. And if you have questions, drop them here in the comments. If not, just give it a thumbs up, give it a like. Remember to subscribe, to turn the notifications on, so you can know every time we go live or we drop some content here on the 5 Reasons YouTube channel. Have a good one, and we'll see you sometime soon.